Hi, my name is Leanne Rogers, and I am the president of Olathe NEA, and I am here with all of the bargaining team members from Olathe NEA. I'll just love to tell you who they are: Laura Wiltanger, Eric Skoglin, Angie Powers, Shelby Lewis, Julia Wenzel, and we would like to go through an outline of the 24-25 tentative agreement with you. You can access these slides through that QR code bit.ly. You can also see that the other members of professional council from the district are named in red, and together the 12 of us have come up with a tentative agreement that we would like for you to consider. This presentation is chunked into 6 parts. We will kind of pop around and share the information about all of the policy language changes, compensation, and hope that you will also access documents on olathenea.org. You can find all the policy updates, calendars, salary schedule under the bargaining tab. So when we started this journey back in February or March, we exchanged our letters with the district and we outlined what the interests were that we wanted to talk about during bargaining this year. So you can see we outlined in our letter that we wanted to, we proposed an increase in beginning salaries. We wanted our educators to be able to move a minimum of 1 step, as well as those educators who were eligible for column movement. We also wanted to enhance the salary schedule in the bachelor's columns to prevent anyone from maxing out on those steps. We wanted to propose a capacity overload compensation provision. And then we also wanted to consider some recommendations from the Extracurricular Academic Support Salary Schedule Committee. Typically, we see new proposals for positions or enhancements to pay. In addition, we wanted to bargain a clarification on who reports for work on inclement weather days. We wanted to look at a revision of the leave policy. We wanted to consider a new policy related to job-related assaults to help ensure that our staff didn't dip into their own leave if they were injured. We wanted to propose a District 403B match for certified staff. And then as part of our MOU that we asked you all to consider in February, there were some dangling items from that needed to be discussed at the table. And we'll go through our proposal with you and take a look at how we did on our interests.
So on the salary schedule, the schedule that we adopted last year was adopted with the intent of being able to provide us with step and column movement in a typical year, along with an increase to the base salary, which flows through the whole scale and increases everyone's pay. We were able to get all 3 of those for this year, in that everyone gets 1 step down. Anyone who earns column movement will be able to move that column. And then we moved the base up to $48,500, which represents a substantial increase in the starting salary. And then, like I said, goes down to everything else that base is connected to, which includes every single one of our salaries, as well as things like the stipend for teaching a 6th period at the secondary level and all of our extracurricular and academic support stipends. There was one change that was made to the salary schedule that allows us to sort of accelerate some of that growth, and that is to remove the first row of the salary schedule. So while we retain the step that you are landing on, you may notice in the new salary schedule that the top row is now step 2 in the tentative agreement. The other thing you'll notice when you look at the schedule is that the bachelor's columns have been extended, like Leanne mentioned, so that there is never going to be an educator at any point in their career that would max out. Everyone would have somewhere to go if we negotiate step movement in a year. So I think on this next slide, we have very small what the salary schedules look like, and you should have access to that electronically through the Olathe NEA website. But I want to draw your attention to there down in the bottom that the movement for all of our staff down one level is about 2.6 million. The enhancement of that base salary is another 7 million. Our estimate on column movement is about 1 million. So all in all, we estimate that just in salary schedule alone, the district has increased their investment nearly $11 million with this tentative agreement.
Okay, I'm going to talk to you. I'm Laura Wiltinger. I teach over at Mission Trail, and I'm going to talk to you today about benefits. And again, this year, the district will take on any extra for benefits for our entire bargaining unit, which is really fabulous. The HSA contribution also will not change. The only thing that may change is our high deductible. Those are subject to the IRS, and so we don't really have any control over that. And then did you know that these are some pretty cool facts that the district pays extra for employees with children and families? Not all districts do that. So that's a pretty neat perk for us. And then also for 2 employee families, the district doubles HSA contributions.
So on the extracurricular and academic support schedule, one thing that I want to mention again, although this will now automatically happen when we raise the base, is that the schedule gets tied to that new base. So our base of 46,000 goes up to 48,500. Since all of our rows on that schedule are percentages of the base, that is an instant raise for all of our staff who are on those different stipends. We also added a number of positions to the schedule for this year as part of our negotiations, a position for the Skills USA, for middle school BLT chair, the site coordinator at each high school for AVID, and the head and assistant coach for high school FIRST Robotics. And in total, if everyone remains in their current positions and gets their longevity bumps, this could represent, through adding programs and increasing the base, almost another $500,000 in investment from the district into our teachers, into our programs.
We did have some significant modifications to policies, and again, these can all be accessed at olathenea.org. But you can see from the list here, we have agreed to remove the sunset provision that was considered last year for discipline and suspension for being suspended without pay. GBOB is the voluntary early retirement plan, just some verbiage change to address clean up final base salary to final contract salary, which is what your VERP is calculated off of. Policy GBZCC professional day now will reflect the increase in plan time for our elementary staff to 300 minutes per 5-day student contact week. Policy GBZEB, which is salary schedule conditions. So that language has been revised to have language that addresses how new educators are placed, ensuring that they are not placed ahead of current employees in the district, as well as putting into language the practice of movement to the master's column from bachelor's to master's that reflects years of experience in the district. Policy GBZEA is professional development. It does now indicate that PLC time will be scheduled on a day of the week at elementary and not tied to the specials rotation. And then GBZK, the glossary, we included a definition of what the base salary is. So these policies had some minor modifications in them. PTO had some major modifications, leaves. So Julia's going to talk through that a bit.
Yes, so this is Julia Winslow from Olathe North, And when it comes to our PTO leave policy, we have come a long way since when it was first introduced a couple bargaining sessions ago. And on this bar chart here, you can see where our proposed number of days and some details there are in comparison to our counterparts within the county. And the details here in the next couple of slides, or this next slide, we'll get into some of the changes that we've got. So the main thing is moving to a paid time off model, and that required some new definitions to be included, such as what the paid time off model was, as well as accrued changing to accumulated, and making sure that we were consistent between and among several policies. So in that GBZCDA, if you want to feel like you're at the eye doctor there, you'll notice that the unused paid time off that is accrued is now going to roll into accumulated illness and bereavement leave. That the number of days for staff with 0 to 5 years is 15, 6 to 10 years is 16, and 11 plus years is 17. If you'd notice on our slide before, we're one of the only districts that offers additional days based on longevity. The buyback provision at the end of the contract year is up to 3 days of your PTO can be sold back or bought back for 75% of the daily sub rate. And 2 employee families will be able to use up to 100 days of that accumulated leave for birth or adoption of a child, increased from the current 80. And then there were the updates to the workers' compensation policy, making an educator whole after a workers' compensation claim. And then some changes in the leave bank, again, to align with the other language changes that happened in that GBCDA policy.
Some other changes that will be reflected in Appendix A, on page 63, there's a chart for stipends and mileage reimbursement that did indicate pay if you substituted as a CLA at the elementary level. Since that position's been eliminated, you can't substitute for it, so the chart's been cleaned up. There are 2 reimbursement forms as well, one for national board certification and one for non-KSD license renewals that we need to update the location change because they're no longer located on the HR website, but somewhere in Oracle. So that location change will be implemented.
This is Shelby Lewis. I'm the general music teacher at Countryside Elementary, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the changes we have in Appendix B of our negotiated agreement. This is where our elementary, middle, and high school scheduling documents live. It's kind of the governing documents that tell us what the day will look like. In February, the bargaining unit voted to ratify a new contract times. So those changes had to be reflected in our negotiated agreement. So elementary, middle, and high school all had to be updated to kind of reflect what the new contract day looked like and student contact day. Our elementary scheduling document had to get quite an overhaul with the elimination of the computer lab assistant program and the change from an A through E to an A through D specials rotation, as well as the elimination of 20 minutes. So you can see kind of in the small writing below some of the highlights from changes in that elementary scheduling document. Our middle school and high school documents, again, had to be reflected to update those contract times and student contact times and how they relate to bell schedules. But for for middle school and high school, we wanted to focus on getting a clear definition of academic intervention out and in the negotiated agreement so that we could eliminate kind of administrator discretion on how that was being implemented in different buildings. The numbers you see across the top of the screen, if you'd like to take a look at those scheduling documents as they exist currently, those are the page numbers in which you can find those documents at. At the end of our timeline, you can see again an update of a conference guidelines, not reflecting, or I'm not in how conferences will change, but just to reflect the contract times of when conferences will be held.
All right, this is Angie Powers from Olathe Northwest. The next few pages are some of the calendar documents that are included in our agreement. Some of these have been available on the Olathe schools ozone through that calendar link. So some of these may not look new to you, but there's a couple of them, or at least one of them that will be new to you. One of the documents we have in our agreement is the certified and administrative staff employment date. So that is done for next year. You'll notice that with PTO, we still do have blackout days. And just like every other year, the blackout days are indicated on this calendar. On pages 91 and 92 of our current negotiated agreement, we have this year's professional development and pre-service calendar. We have the updated one for next year, so that is available to you. All of these calendars are available to you on olathenea.org under the bargaining tab. The grade and reporting dates document, of course, has been updated. Primarily just some inclusive language information that has been updated and just making sure the dates align with the 24-25 calendar. And then you'll notice on the right-hand side of the slide, we do have now the 25-26 school year calendar available. I haven't yet been able to find that in the ozone, but it should be going there probably pretty soon. But that is available on Olathe NEA under bargaining. One thing to note for the 25-26 school year is Memorial Day is really, 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 really early. It's the earliest it could really ever be. So our calendar committee had to get kind of creative in how to get in the right amount of time in that second semester without changing, Thanksgiving break being a whole week, winter break being 2 weeks, spring break being a whole week. So if you look carefully at the 25-26 years calendar, you will notice there are a couple things that are a little different than what we've been used to the last couple years. And with that, Leanne's going to kind of talk about how well we met our interests in this bargain.
Yeah, so we're circling back to the language that was included in our letter that we exchanged with the district. And we have 3 big check marks on our first part, mainly dealing with compensation and the structure of the salary schedule. One thing that we need to keep looking at and studying is a capacity overload compensation. We really struggled to find a plan that would be equitable for all educators. So while this is done for this year, it may come back in the future, so stay tuned. And then our check marks on here deal with clarification on who will report to work. Even although this wasn't bargained and put in the agreement or the tentative agreement, the district did bring forward communication that would be clarified. That would not require people from one building to work on an inclement weather day, while folks from another building with the same job would not be required to work. So stay tuned for future inclement weather updates from the district. The leave policy that we brought forward was countered with an adjustment to board policy that deals with workers' compensation. And it is the language in that policy was adjusted so that educators would be held harmless as far as their leave and pay if they are, let's say, assaulted at work or injured in the line of work. So we agreed to that board policy, and that's going to be brought forward to the school board, I think, in June. And then big accomplishment was the leave policy, because we were able to work together with the district within a committee structure to get that proposal brought forward. We'll continue to consider the idea of a 403B match and maybe work on that through the benefits committee. So stay tuned on that. Down below, the bullets that talk specifically about the MOU and the items that were interest of ours, we feel like we were able to address not only a definition of academic intervention and academic extension, but we were able to get those in the scheduling documents. We were able to get the bell schedule adjusted and preserve late start for PLC at the high school level, and then figure out a way to implement the additional plan time at the elementary level that we agreed to a year or two ago. The items in the blue boxes, we want to just keep monitoring while we don't have specific language for those in the agreement. We have had some great conversations at the table and with district leadership about these, and we'll just kind of continue to monitor those as we move forward in the future.
And then finally, our total investment that the district is putting into the bargaining unit. Obviously, there are some elements of this bargain that are hard to put a price on. For example, PTO. Will the move to PTO cost the district more money? That is something obviously that the district is going to be interested in collecting data on. But those items that we can price out with some level of certainty, you see on your screen, you'll notice that that represents over an $11.5 million investment in our bargaining unit. One thing that's really important to kind of give context to that number is the new money coming from the state this year is about 18 million, and that is of course to Olathe. Generally, our UNISERV Director Brett Parker says that there are some districts who, of the new money, they may only put 40% of that back into their educators, their bargaining unit. Olathe, usually about 55% of our state money goes towards the bargaining unit. But if you do the math, about 65-ish, 64% of the new money is being put into the bargaining unit just based on the prices that you see on the screen. So that is a significant focus on investing in our educators. Really want to encourage you all to make sure that you're registered to vote, because having a supportive board and having members in the Kansas legislature that know that education is an investment in our children's future, those are key parts of being able to, of course, receive new money from the state, and that state being able to, of course, come back to the educators here in Olathe.
Thanks, Angie. And thank you for tuning in and listening to the agreement outline. Again, you can access documents at olathenea.org under the bargaining tab.
We appreciate you watching this edited version of negotiations between Olathe Public Schools and Olathe NEA. Did you know that Olathe NEA members and other KNEA members average nearly 20% more in salary throughout their career than other educators that do not belong to a district that has negotiations with a KNEA affiliate? Did you know that you could also join Olathe NEA now and not pay membership dues until September 2024? We hope that you will go to knea.org/join and become part of our Education for All movement.
I went to a meeting and I heard the passion in all of their voices, and I felt like I had found my people. They were talking about supporting their fellow teachers and how can we make school better. This work can't be done alone. We need each other.
This is the first time that I've ever actually had a job that had an association. I was like, all right, sign me up. I put myself up there and I got voted in. I like every minute of it so far. We had negotiations, which were really good negotiations. It means a great deal to me, like being the voice of our drivers.
We are the union collectively. Our voice can make a difference, and that can impact our students and help with their success.